Om Namah Shivaya, and welcome to this Q&A session with Swamini Svatmavidyananda ji. We are very delighted and grateful to have her here at the ashram in Sivananda, Bahamas. She's been giving a program after giving many beautiful programs in the past, and we are all enjoying it tremendously. We're very grateful for her for coming here all the way from India. And Swamini ji, thank you so much for joining us here. I want to ask you, you've been coming to the ashram for a couple of years now, and I wanted to ask, what is your experience of teaching here? What is unique about this place in your eyes?
How much time do you have? That would be my first answer. Because I think that there is a reason why the ashrams are generally or should be located in wonderful places of nature, because it offers a beautiful retreat. People come to be one with the elements, and even though we say that everything is within and how we feel is within and the place should not really matter, but it does, because what is outside is reflected within. And so I find this a very healing place, a very transformative place, and a place for a fitting place for the pursuit of knowledge in many ways. I have witnessed myself people having really wonderful transformative experiences because they have shared those with me. Sometimes people may have just come for a holiday thinking, oh, I'll just take some time off. But then they ended up having, attending some satsang, and something spoke to them, and they ended up having a deep spiritual transformation. And that is one of the things which makes it a very nice place to teach. And it is a little different from what I am accustomed to as a traditional teacher of Vedanta, where we have lots of classes and we cater to people who come only for the knowledge. And here it gives me an opportunity, which I really welcome, to be versatile and to teach in short spurts, and to know that whatever I say, it's not about the length of it or anything. It's just a kernel here. A small piece of teaching here which could potentially transform somebody. So it has helped me to have to diversify my relationship with the ways in which I was taught, so that it is more accessible and easy for people to pick up little bites of knowledge, rather than take the time, even without having the interest or the preparedness to sit for long classes. And so much so that now I'm thinking so much that in a way that it is important to be able to give kernels of knowledge in short spurts in time, because that is the way of the contemporary times and contemporary life. And so this is transformative for the people, and it has also transformed me.
Beautiful. Thank you. So you mentioned the teachings of Vedanta, the traditional teachings of Vedanta, and maybe you can help us with understanding the relationship between Vedanta and yoga.
Yoga is a lifestyle that is conducive to gaining the knowledge of the self. That is how I see the relationship. Yoga helps Chitta Shuddhi, a purification of the heart, and from the hold of strong preferences and prejudices, from the hold of emotions, difficult emotions, such as fear, anger, sorrow, jealousy, all these things, pride, and It helps us to let go of that. And it also helps with chitta naishchalyam, the unmovingness of the mind, the ability to focus, the ability to stay with the topic. And so these are all prerequisites for Vedanta, which is listening to the truth of yourself as free and whole. So the two are very much together.
And if we will ask what is needed in order to start the study of Vedanta?
An open heart, and that is what is needed. Shraddha, that is the main thing. The Bhagavad Gita says, Shraddhavan labhate jnana. Shraddha is described variously as devotion, reverence, but ultimately it is trust. It is the ability to let the knowledge carry you from one place to another and let the knowledge transform you. Usually when we interact with something, we want to be the transformative agent. I want to act upon something, and I am the observer, and I am capturing what I see as an object. I am objectifying something. Well, here is a knowledge which is about you. You are not an object. And so here is a knowledge that it has to discover, you have to discover. It has to teach you what you are, because you are separated from that by ignorance. And so other bodies of knowledge you master. Vedanta, you allow yourself to be mastered by this knowledge. You, meaning the ahankara, the ego, needs to be transformed, needs to be carried away by this. And that's why the willingness to trust becomes the single and most important qualification for a student of Vedanta. The ability to trust, and it's a trust pending understanding. It's not an empty belief, like somebody will save me. That's an empty belief. We don't know. It's a non-verifiable belief. That here it's not a non-verifiable belief. It is very much, it's a verifiable belief, because we see the gurus of the past, of the lineage, who have undergone this and who have come out of the other side and who are able to teach and who are able to carry the lineage. And so therefore we know that this is trustworthy. So it's a trust. Shraddha is trust pending understanding. It is the trust that I will be transformed, and it is keeping at bay, learning to keep at bay my own reservations, my own suspicions, and my own distrust, and then working with myself to heal those sources of distrust, to own up that distrust and heal those sources, so that I can be open for the knowledge. And that requires devotion to Bhagavan, it requires Karma Yoga, it requires other things like forbearance, titiksha, viveka, vairagya, discrimination and dispassion. All these things Shraddha brings. So this is what is needed to open up to Vedanta. The ability to be led, the ability to be taught, the ability to receive, the ability finally to give the benefit of doubt to the Upanishad, the Veda, and to the teacher who is unfolding the Veda.
Can you talk a little bit about the teacher, about what does it mean to have a guru? Because especially in these days, many people say the guru is within.
Yeah, it is true. Guru is within. Just like Bhagavan is within, Guru is also within. No problem in saying. But in Kali Yuga, the period of time we are undergoing now, Kali means conflict, Kali means difficulty, Kali means strife. So in this Kali Yuga, there is Guru allergy. As soon as you say Guru, a rash develops and you want to scratch. And this guru allergy is very interesting, because for all the other things that one doesn't know, one takes help. One has dancing guru, no problem. One has singing guru, no problem. One has cooking guru, no problem. One has life guru, life coach, no problem. And then one has stock market guru, no problem. So the word guru has become loosely understood to mean guides of various kinds. But when it comes to the most important and most intimate of things, which is myself, to understand that, then I say, no, I want to do it all by myself. There is no DIY Vedanta ever. If you go to the do-it-yourself section of a bookstore and you find a book titled DIY Vedanta, do not buy it because you are wasting your money. There is no such thing. Why? Because that infrastructure itself is the problem. That I am ignorant is the problem, and one cannot teach oneself. One needs somebody who has gone through this ignorance and come on the other side to be able to use the methodologies, the pedagogies of Vedanta in order to unfold the truth of oneself. That the truth of oneself is limitless, is I am exactly as I want to be. I want to be free, I am already free. I want to be whole, I am already whole. I want to be not unhappy, I am already happy. I want to be limitless, I am already limitless. This is the discovery, and this discovery you cannot stumble upon this, because we are talking about the nature of the stumbler. So this is what has to be understood, this is what has to be internalized. So the guru is important because the guru wields the Veda and makes it into a means of knowledge, because of which you can see the truth. And the pedagogy runs in two ways. One way is to say neti neti. It removes ignorance by saying you are not this, you are not this, you are not this. And then it says you are this. And like in the Bhagavad Gita, you are not subject to be burnt. The self is not subject to be damaged by water, by wind, by fire. And then it says what the self is. Nityas sarvagatas sthanuhu achalam sanatanaha. Sanatanaha, that which is ever the same and unchanging. Nityaha, eternal, infinite. Sarvagataha, all pervasive. Sthanu, staying the same always. Like this, these two kinds of prakriyas, the teaching methodologies help one to get further in this knowledge, help one to assimilate. And the guru is the one that deploys these prakriyas. Prakriyas means various kinds of methodologies. We have karya karana prakriya, the cause-effect pedagogy. The whole universe is an effect, and that effect is not separate from the cause, just like the pot is not separate from clay. So the effect is cause, but cause is not effect. This is one prakriya. Another prakriya is avasthatraya prakriya. You are, the sleeper is you, dreamer is you, and what else is left? Waker, of course, is you. And then you are neither waker nor sleeper nor dreamer, but that which upholds the three states without becoming any one of them. This is another prakriya. So through these kinds of methodologies, that which is the I, which is mistaken for the body-mind-sense complex, mistaken for one's experiences, mistaken for one's fears, one's tears, is set right, is revealed to be the truth of this entire universe. That is why one needs a teacher.
Would you agree to share a little bit about the experience with your own teacher?
Yes, what would you like to know?
And how did he inspire you?
you know, I was inspired even before meeting him, because I met one of his students who is very famous, who's written a lot of books on Ayurveda. Her name is Mother Maya. She's a great, great lady. And I met her first, and when she started to talk about Swami Dayananda ji, I was immediately already inspired, and I had decided to study with him. And when I met him, it was just, I could not understand how such a big being was inside this body, which seemed to have edges, which seemed to have a beginning and an end, and which looked finite. But his presence was so large, and he lived what mattered to me, and what matters to me is that he lived the teachings completely, never swerved from it. And from his behavior, he was like a walking, talking book of Upanishad. Whatever he did was in keeping with it. Whatever he said was in keeping with it. Waking, dream, sleep, doesn't matter. He just lived it so completely. And that was the greatest gift, to be able to see him not just teach, but how he is in non-teaching moments. For him there was no, this is satsang and I'm walking out of satsang and this is my private life. That was not there. It was all one stream of consciousness. It was just how he flowed. It was all a big classroom for him. He was teaching effortlessly all the time, because that's how he was, that's how he lived. And that was beautiful to watch, very, very beautiful, that seamless way in which he carried himself. And whenever I went to him with a question, like sometimes if there was a problem, like I would say, what should I do in this situation? What should I learn here? He would always say, oh, this is so simple. Then I would think he was going to give me some kind of a remedy. And he would say instead, just be big like me. Be big like me. As though it was so simple. This is so simple. It's very easy. Just be big like me. And when you are big, then every problem in the world becomes very small. Be big. So that is what my takeaway was, to be big. Very, very inspiring.
Can I ask you, people sometimes wonder, how do they know if they're advancing the spiritual path? What are the signs for that?
What are the signs of advancing in the spiritual path? That's a very nice question. Let's see. In regular life, without the teaching, without initiating a spiritual, course of study, there are a lot of ups and downs, correct? There are so many ups and downs. One has, one day one is disappointed, another day one is excited, third day, maybe it's a Thursday, so on the third day one has a meltdown, correct? One has a total meltdown on one of the days. And this is the graph of everyday life, without yoga, without Vedanta, without spiritual instruction. One is like a ball being bounced around by the exigencies of life. And once you begin a course of study, once you commit yourself to spiritual instruction, to the path of yoga, then what happens is that this up and down becomes a little more smooth, like when the ocean is calm. The waves are there, but they are more rounded. They are not choppy They are not big and, you know, up and down. The graph is a little more smooth. Why? Because there is an inner strength, the ability to manage these volatile emotions, which is the gift of the teachings. So one can say that the frequency of the disturbance, emotional disturbance in the chitta vritti, the frequency of that comes down. So if one was having a breakdown 5 times a day, perhaps one is having a breakdown once a day, and then from there one is having a breakdown once in 5 days. So that is one sign. The first sign would be the frequency of the breakdowns and the disturbance is less. The second sign is this: when there is a disturbance in the past, what would happen before committing to a life of spiritual growth? What would happen is that one was out of commission, let's say for 3 days. One was under the covers, not available for transaction at all. Now what happens? Thanks to all the spiritual props and tools that we have at hand, perhaps one day one is out of commission, next day one is back. This is nice. And so the intensity of the outburst reduces. So first the frequency of the outburst reduces, the intensity reduces. Before it was just, you know, before maybe 1 dozen plates were thrown and broken before one could come back to oneself. Now, you know, one need not break anything, one just raves and rants and comes back to oneself. Then finally, the recovery time from that outburst used to be a long time before, and now that is also less. Before it used to be like a snake bite, you know, needed so much attention and needed a lot of bloodletting and other practices. But now it is like a mosquito bite. One scratches and then it is done. This is how one knows that one is becoming more in possession of oneself and one's emotions. One is well on the way to be a master of the inner, world. That is what is Swami, the master of the mind, the master of the ego.
Thank you, it's beautiful. So you mentioned Swami. Maybe you can help us to understand more. What does it mean to be a Swami?
To be a Swami means to drop out of competing for resources completely. And that is what Swami-hood is. We don't have a vow of poverty. It's not that you say, I'm not going to, I'm going to take a vow of poverty. That's not what you do. The vow is abhaya. You take only one vow. It is abhaya. I give to the whole entire universe. I give a promise, abhaya dana. I give a promise of no fear. Meaning that nobody is there from now on, whether it is animals, whether it is plants, whether it is other human beings, or even the devas, like Indra, the king of heaven. We say it so much. In the vow that is taken, you need not ever be afraid of me. You don't have to be afraid of me. I'm not here to take your seat. I'm not interested in heaven. I don't want to be a deva. And other people also, I'm not here to take your place. I'm not in competition with you for food, for resources, for money, for attention, for any kind of validation. I'm not in competition. To all the beings, small beings that run away and that may be frightened, I'm not in competition with you. I'm not going to kill you. I'm not going to eat you. I'm giving you that freedom. Abhaya, you need, from now on, please do not be afraid of it. This is sannyasa. To walk a life of no disturbance. And that is not possible because somebody can be disturbed for reasons that are personal for themselves, their own subjectivity. So I would say to walk a life of least disturbance, the least amount of disturbance that you can do on this planet, and to walk a life without internalizing any disturbance either. So the practice is that I try not to be disturbed, and I try not to I try to make sure that people around me are not disturbed to the fullest possible extent that I can. And this is something which Pujya Swamiji, my teacher also, Swami Dayananda ji, used to do. And he would say that sometimes people did not understand why he was dressed in orange, especially when he was walking in the West. One time somebody took him to an animal sanctuary somewhere in the United States. And then there was a family coming across from this side. And they pointed to him and laughed, the parents. And they told the children, this is a new specimen in the zoo. You know? And he also laughed with them. He did not take it personally. And then the children felt safe. And they said, why are you dressed like this? And he joked, Halloween has come early. Halloween is this festival in October, you know, where a pumpkin and orange and all these things. So he said, Halloween has come early. And they were so happy. And he happened to have some candy with him and he gave the children, and the parents were also smiling. So that is what is the life of least disturbance. Because if one did not have the Swami response, one would be at a loss. You see one would have taken it personally. One could be upset. One could fight with his family and say, this is discrimination. How can you do this? All this is unnecessary. So this is one example of how to lead a non-disturbed life. And again, one more example, he would say that when he chose to fly, he would always take the first window seat, so that he didn't have to walk the length of the plane and have people wonder who is he, and I hope he's not sitting next to me, so that he didn't have to walk the whole length of the flight. Out of consideration for people, he would just take the first seat somewhere so that he would just sit down, and then after that whoever sat next to him had to, he could not help that, but he would just sit down and not cause disturbance. These are ways we learn.
So I know that you have a personal connection to Swami Sivananda. Will you agree to share about that?
Oh yes, that is a very beautiful connection. The maternal grandfather was a householder devotee, the maternal grandparents, and so we have some stories about Swami Sivananda going to their house for bhiksha, and then them visiting the ashram on different occasions and staying there. And the maternal grandfather saying, the story is, I never met him because he was already gone by the time I came around. But the maternal grandfather, the story goes that he had lost a son, which Swami Sivananda had actually prophesied before it happened, to help him to be strong. And after it happened, a young son, and so after it happened, Swami Sivananda was for him a rock. And the grandfather always said that if it was not for Swami Sivananda ji, he would just be completely broken apart. Both him and his wife were told to be in Rishikesh for an extended period after this. And Swamiji apparently told them, you please stay here until I tell you to go. And then the grandfather asked, when will that be? when you completely come out of this sorrow. And it only took 10 days. It took 10 days of being there. And then after that they stayed on for some more time because they wanted to. And I think secretly they couldn't believe that it was already gone. So to make sure that they stayed on for some time. But he just removed the sorrow. He just took it out of them. I mean, of course, you know that the awareness was of the loss was there, but they were no longer dysfunctional. They were not completely bowled over by that. They were able to be functional and do, you know, whatever needed to be done. So they derived great, you know, solace and comfort from this.
Thank you. Very, very interesting to have all this
I
connection.
sent you a photo,
Yes.
right? And Shambhavi, you were very insistent because you know how I am. I don't really pursue things. And so I said, oh, I had seen a photo somewhere. I had remembered from a long time ago. And you kept saying, where is it? Where is it? One email came, where is it? I said, oh, it is somewhere. I don't know if I can find it. Then later on, in your beautiful way, after a little while, you sent another gentle reminder. Any chance of this photo anywhere? And then suddenly it came up. It came up. And I think I sent it to you.
Yes.
At least one was, there are others I remember, but this one at least was found. So I'm happy about that.
So, okay. So I just want a little bit more about maybe sharing some experience that you had while here in the ashram, or something that why this place can inspire others to pursue the spiritual path.
You know, so many things are needless to talk about. All you have to see is look at the ocean, and so many things are very clear. But I think what is so transformative, you say, you can talk about nature, you can talk about endlessly about the ocean, you can talk about the buildings, you can talk about the temples, you can talk about the lecture, the satsangs, the programs. But I find what is most transformative are the people here. That when you see how somebody is abiding in this way of life, that is the most transformative. You see people, because you see it's not about what people talk. It's easy to talk, anybody can talk. But how do you lead your life? So I find that there is a lot of seva bhava here. There is a genuine desire to serve, even though everybody I have met has no time because they work so hard. Everybody works so hard tending to whatever their roles are. Yet they are able to do it with a peaceful mind, with a sense of devotion, with a smile on the face. That is not easy. That is really, really not easy, despite being so busy to have the time. And I find I just love interacting with the Swamis here because they are so friendly, they are so devoted, they are so humble, and they are so knowledgeable. And so they wear the knowledge in the most gracious, with grace and integrity. It is something very, very beautiful to see that. Very transformative. So I think everybody should come here and experience this.
Thank you so much, Swamini ji, for taking the time and answering all of these questions in such a beautiful way and helping us to assimilate and understand this high and so important knowledge. So we want to thank you so much, and thank you all for watching. Om Namah Shivaya.